Welcome to 6 Space VMS T Initiation and Exposure course. We are in Phase 2. Step 1 has been the introductory features and Step 2 is 6 Space content flow. Phase 1 of 6 Space VMS T has focus upon Hypercube 6 format, while Phase 2 is having a focus upon 6 Space content flow along a Sthapatya miring rod. In Phase 1, we have been exposed to Hypercube 6, and we know Hypercube 6 is a 6 Space body. It is a 6 Space content manifesting as domain fold of Hypercube 6. In this step 2 of this phase, our focus is going to be upon 6 Space content as it manifests as a domain fold, and further how the domain fold itself flows. The flow of 6 Space domain is a flow of the internal organization setup of 6 Space domain, and we know within 6 Space domain there can be a full range of the representative regular bodies of 1 to 6 space, interval square, cube, hypercube 4, hypercube 5 and hypercube 6. All bodies are available will manifest within 6 Space domain. Let us make a note in our 6 Space VMST notebook as that interval, along interval there will manifest points and lines both. Within surface will manifest line and surface both. Within cube will manifest interval, square and cube, or interval, square and cube as representative regular bodies 1, 2 and 3 spaces. A step ahead, within 4 space will manifest interval, square, cube and hypercube 4. All the 4 bodies will manifest within 4, and likewise within 5 Space domain will manifest the bodies of 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 space. Within 6 Space will manifest the bodies of all the 1 to 6 spaces. This manifestation phenomenon of 1 to 6 bodies within 6 Space is the phenomenon which deserves to be comprehended well. Today our focus is going to be as to how within 6 Space there is a sequential manifestation of 1 space to 6 space bodies. It is this phenomenon which is the phenomenon of a sequential flow of 6 Space content. Means the line taking as one axis, surface taking as pair of axes, solid taking as triple axis, 4 Space taking as quadruple axis, and ahead there being 5 axis and 6 axis setups. Now these are the formats, and along it, when there are the points of 6 space content, means point a point which is structured with a 6 space setup. The points of 6 space are going to be the points in which there is a complete structure of the 6 space. Therefore, these are 6 space content points, or these are the points which, when are set along the single axis, or when these are set along a line, this line as such will become a line of 6 space content. So 6 space content line, a step ahead, will transit and transform into a pair of axis setup, as we know that within surface there will be line and surface both. A step ahead, so when we are from line to a surface, and we know both these bodies manifest within a surface. A step ahead, when we are having line, square and a cube, then we know that these three bodies together are manifesting within a cube itself. Therefore, it is this manifestation of interval square and cube within a cube, or interval and square within a square, is the feature which is sequentially taking us how there happens to be a simultaneous manifestation in this sequential format. So when we are within 6 space domain, then we will be having sequential manifestation first step as a line, then line and interval in a square, then we'll be having line, square and interval within a cube. A step ahead, the 4 bodies within 4 space is, so it is within creator's space or creator's domain. There will be manifestation of the quadruple bodies, line, interval, solid, cube and hypercube 4. In 5 space, there will be a simultaneous manifestation of pentabodies, line, square, cube, hypercube 4 and hypercube 5. And finally, within 6 space, there will be a manifestation of hexa number of bodies, interval, square, solid or a cube, hypercube 4, hypercube 5 and hypercube 6. Once we are face to face with this feature, once we are having comprehension of these features, then we can understand as that the 6 space content as it is will sequentially manifest this setup within a 6 space. So sequential 6 steps within 6 value is the feature which is parallel to the feature of a Sthapatya miring rod as a synthetic setup of representative regular bodies of 1 to 6 space. It is this phenomenon which deserves to be comprehended well to have a proper insight and to be face to face with the enlightenment of 6 space VMS T. 6-space VMS T as such is a science technologies of 6-space content of the 6-space. Let us make a note that Akash space is expression of a content द्रव्य. This space content as such, when comes within a dimensional frame of a single dimension, it becomes one space content. When it is framed by a dimensional frame of pair of dimensions, it becomes two space content. And like that, when there will be 6 dimensions, a frame of 6 dimensions superimposed upon the space, then it will make the space content as a 6 space content. Let us make a note that space content sequentially transits and transforms into a content of the concerned dimensional order. When we are having superimposition of a dimensional frame of a single dimension, then the space content transits and transforms and becomes a setup of the features of a one space content. Or in other words, space content, when is superimposed a dimensional frame of a single dimension, then it gets conditioned as a one space content. The space content, when is conditioned by the space superimposed by a dimensional frame of a pair of dimensions, then the space content becomes a content of the features of two space content, or it is designated as a two space content. Like that, space, when is superimposed upon a dimensional frame of 6 dimensions, then the space content gets conditioned and is designated as a 6 space content. The conditioned features and values of the space content within a dimensional frame of 6 dimensions is being designated as 6 space content. Today our focus is to go parallel to the flow of 6 space content. Now 6 space content being the space content conditioned by a dimensional frame of 6 dimensions, as such, this superimposed condition upon the space content makes it a domain of a 6 space. So 6 space domain is a feature of 6 space content. The 6 space content as a domain amounts to, it is a manifested situation. By manifested situation, we mean that we are having its expression within creator's space, means within 4 space. Therefore, our today's focus for 6 space content flow would mean that we want to have a flow of a space content conditioned within 6 dimensions. These 6 dimensions are the dimensions here are of the creative order. Within creator's space, 4 space content plays the role of a dimension. We will be having therefore a 6 space content within a dimensional frame of 6 dimensions, and each dimension is of a creative order. Means 4 space is playing the role of a dimension. Therefore, we have to now have a pause and have to revisit a creator's space, means a 4 space. So 4 space is playing the role of a dimension. There are as many as 6 dimensions. These 6 dimensions are conditioning the space content and making it a 6 space content. Now this 6 space content within dimensional frame of 6 creative dimensions makes a 6 space domain. It is this 6 space domain whose flow, it is in a static state and we want to take it in a dynamic state. So the dynamic state of 6 space domain means of a 6 space content lump manifesting within a dimensional frame of 6 dimensions, with each dimension being of a creative order. Let us have a pause. Let us make a specific note and let us express ourselves fully. Let us reach at this manifested state of 6 space content. So we say that number 1, we are within creator's space. That means we are within 4 space. Number 2, 4 space is playing the role of a dimension. Number 3, there are as many as 6 creative dimensions. Means 4 space playing the role of a dimension, and there is a set of 6 such dimensions. These 6 dimensions are designated as creative dimensions. These are designated as creative dimensions as 4 space content is playing the role of a dimension. Now the next step is, fourth step is that we are having 6 creative dimensions, and these 6 creative dimensions together are constituting a dimensional frame of 6 dimensions. This dimensional frame of 6 creative dimensions is designated as a dimensional frame of a 6 space. The fifth step is that we are now having a dimensional frame of 6 creative dimensions, that is a dimensional frame of 6 space or 6 space dimensional frame. Now this dimensional frame of 6 creative dimensions is superimposed upon a space. Therefore our space, when is superimposed a dimensional frame of 6 creative dimensions, then space becomes a 6 space. Now next step, when we have reached at conditioning for a space as a 6 space, then parallel to it there happens to be a conditioning for a space content, and it becomes a 6 space content. Once we have reached at 6 space content, then it would mean that within creator's space, which itself is a 4 space, and 4 space is having 2 space in the role of its dimension. Therefore 6 creative dimensions will give us a setup of 6 spatial dimensions. It will give us a value 2 multiplied by 2 multiplied by 2 multiplied by 2 6 times equal to 2 raised to power 6, and in a linear way it will give us 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 6 times, giving us value 12, and here we are getting value 64. Therefore, these are the two features which are getting inherently coming into play in the phenomenon of space getting conditioned by superimposition of a dimensional frame of 6 creative dimensions. We know that creative dimension itself is of a spatial order. As such, this conditioning of a space with superimposition of 6 creative dimensions will bring in a setup of 6 spatial dimensions. This value of 6 spatial dimensions in a linear organization or as an addition operation will amount to reach at a value 12. However, this set of values, when along a dimensional format, that is along a multiplication operation, it will become 2 raised to power 6 is equal to 64. Now we know value 64 as a value 64 is a value of a synthesis of a pair of transcendence ranges of a creative order. The pair of transcendence ranges of creative order giving us value 64. It is this value which is also coming to focus a 4 space as dimension and a 6 space as a domain. One shall sit comfortably and to permit the transcending mind to be face to face with this feature. This feature of the manifestation process of the space content while there is a superimposition of a dimensional frame of 6 space or creative dimensional frame of 6 dimensions, then it is leading us to value 64, and value 64 we have seen is the parallel to the synthesis value of a pair of transcendence ranges of a creative order. Once we are face to face with this feature, then the value 12 is further bringing us face to face with that the linear order or interval a raised to power 1 representative regular body is having a boundary components 2 points. Then the surface is having a raised to power 2 is to 4 b raised to power 2, that is 4 boundary component. So here the first body, one space body, is giving us 2 boundary components, and the 2 space body is giving us 4 components. Step ahead, a 3 space body a raised to power 3 is to 6b square is giving us boundary component 6. Step ahead, a 4 space body as a raised to power 4 is to 8b cube is giving us 8 boundary components. A 5th body is giving us formulation a raised to power 5 is to 10b raised to power 4, 10 boundary components. Step ahead, we are getting a raised to power 6 is to 12b raised to power 5 is equal to 12 boundary components. Therefore, this is a reach at value 12. One shall sit comfortably and to make a specific note as to how the value 12 is taking us to a sequential chase as a reach as 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 and 12. So it is a sequential reach at the boundary, 12 boundary components of 6. Let us revisit Sthapatya miring rod. Sthapatya miring rod is a synthetic setup of representative regular bodies of 1 space to 6 space. Further, we know that these hypercubes, the representative regular bodies, are having domain boundary ratio of the formulation a raised to power n is to 2 and b raised to power n minus 1. One may further have a pause here and take note that the Shad Chakras, the 6 eternal circuits of human body, are having the external characteristics as 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 and 12. These external characteristics 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 are parallel to the boundary components of hypercubes 1 to 6. Now with it, let us have a revisit to the setup of a hypercube 6. Now hypercube 6 is a fourfold manifestation layer where 4 space plays the role of a dimension, 5 space as a boundary, 6 space as dimension and 7 space as origin. See, 4 plus 5 plus 6 plus 7 is equal to 22. See, 6 space is having 2 into 6 plus 1 is equal to 13 geometries. There are 13 geometries of 6 space. Now 4 space, which is playing the role of a dimension, is giving us 2 raised to power 4 plus 1 is equal to 9. 9 geometries range of 4 space. See, 13 plus 9 is equal to 22. It would be very blissful to take note that the manifestation of 6 space content as a 6 space domain of a creative order is a manifestation as a hypercube 6 with the value for its fourfold manifestation layer 4 plus 5 plus 6 plus 7 is 22 is parallel to the value of the 13 geometries range of 6 space as domain plus 9 geometries range of 4 space as a dimension. Let us sit comfortably. Let us permit the transcending mind to comprehend and imbibe this feature. It is this feature which will bring us face to face with the phenomenon of a flow of 6 space content. 6 space content, we know, is the space content conditioned with the superimposition of a dimensional frame of 6 creative dimensions. So each dimension is a creative dimension. So here 4 space is coming into play. Therefore, the flow of 6 space content is taking us to a 4 space content in the form of a dimension. The flow of 6 space content is a flow where the 6 space content takes us to 4 space content. It is a feature that domain is flowing and is transiting and transforming as a dimension. It is this feature of 6 space domain transiting and transforming as a four-space content as a dimension. Therefore, the space content flow phenomenon is the phenomenon of a domain transiting and transforming into dimension. It is this feature, it is this value which deserves to be comprehended well. One shall make a note that six-space content flow can be defined as that the phenomenon of happening of transition and transformation for six-space domain as of values, features and format of a four-space as a dimension. And further we know that when we are having a flow for six-space as a domain, as a four-space as a dimension, and further we know that four-space as dimension is also taking us to two-space as a dimension of a dimension. It is this feature, it is this phenomenon, it is this value which is the basic value, basic comprehension, basic insight and basic flow format of conceived by, comprehended by and imbibed by the Vedic systems. Now value 6 we know is the value of a letter Sha. Value 4 is value of letter Re. Value 2 is the value of letter E. And this reach as a Rishi means a seer. Therefore, the phenomenon of transcendental phenomenon, a phenomenon of a six-space content flowing. This flow of a six-space content that way will become a transcendence within a six-space domain. Six-space domain is permitting a transcendence within it along its creative dimension, and this creative dimension is further taking us to its dimension, the spatial dimension. Therefore, the sadhakas, the students, the intellectuals, scholars who are having full intensity of urge to be face to face with this phenomenon of six-space content flow shall follow the formulation Rishi. That means the intelligence of our intelligence field is to grow and is to be of a self-referral order. When our intelligence becomes of a self-referral order, then it will be of the order parallel to the flow of the six-space content. This flow of six-space content, when is chased, when becomes evident, one becomes within the visibility of the chase steps of the intelligence, then it amounts to that sadhaka has acquired the self-referral value parallel to the value of a six-space content. Once we have been at this phase and stage, then from this phase and stage onwards, we will be in a position to see the phenomenon of a dimensional synthesis of self-referral order. So six-space as dimension, when synthesizes and there are pair of dimensions, it takes us to value 8. A step ahead, when 3 dimensions are there, it takes again to value 6. It is this feature, it is this value which is to be comprehended. Now from here we have to proceed step by step and reach up till 34 steps. Why 34 steps? As value 34 is equal to 7 plus 8 plus 9 plus 10, as it would amount to a reach for a 7 space playing the role of a dimension. Therefore, the phenomenon of 6 space content flow is to be chased as a 6 space content in a dynamic state. Means 6 space domain in a static state is a domain, and in a dynamic state it is going to be as a role of a 6 space as a dimension. Now 6 space as dimension is a dimension of 8 space. Therefore, this phenomenon of dimensional synthesis of self-referral order with as a step will take us to firstly the 7th space in the role of a dimension. And when we'll reach at these 34 steps, then we'll take the end reach value will be minus 26. Means here the difference value is 2, minus 2, like that. So the end difference value will be minus 126. And we know there are 126 chapters of a Vishnu Puran. Therefore, the Vishnu Puran, the ancient wisdom textbook of 6 space VMS T, is bringing us face to face with the phenomenon of the way the 7th space as a dimension is coming into a static state. 6 space in a static state is a 6 space domain. 6 space in a dynamic state is a 6 space as a dimension. And in this dynamic state, it reaches at 7 space as a dimension. In a reverse orientation, we have to reach back from 7th space as a dimension to its manifestation as a 6 space as a domain. Then we have to take a reach at value minus 126, and it is the value of opposite orientation of the value of the total chapters of a Vishnu Puran. One shall sit comfortably, one shall permit the transcending mind to be paralleled with these features, these values, these formats of a space content flow. Focus here for us is of a 6 space content flow. However, these features as these are in their generality will take us to a space content flow in its generality. While we are conditioning a 6 space as a 6 space, and as a result there is happening a conditioning for a space content as a 6 space content, then this space content as a domain, when comes in a dynamic state, it plays the role of a 6 space as a dimension. 6 space as a dimension gives a reach, transition and transformation to the 7 space as dimension. In a reverse orientation, the 7 space as a dimension will reach back to a domain state but of a 6 space, a prior state. It is this phenomenon, it is this reach which deserves to be comprehended well. The role of the format and organization features of Vishnu Puran as 126 chapters is to be chased in its both orientations. When it is being chased in its positive orientation, then it is taking us from 6 space as dimension to 7 space as a dimension. However, in the reverse orientation, when we will be coming back from 7 space to a 6 space as a domain, from that dimension to this domain state, then again we will be requiring 126 steps but in opposite orientation. Let us sit comfortably. Let us reach at these principles, these features, step by step, sequentially and gently. Let us start with space, then have a superimposition of dimensional frames and conditioning. As a result, there being also a conditioning for the space content of the concerned dimensional frame with a focus upon 6 space as a space within a dimensional frame of 6 creative dimensions, and consequential conditioning of the space content as 6 space content and 6 space content manifesting as a 6 space domain of hypercube 6, and this dimension while in a dynamic state will take 6 space as a dimension which will take us to 7 space, and from back orientation when we'll reach from 7 step to 6 space we'll be requiring as many as 126 steps but in opposite orientation. Therefore, this tabulation of dimensional synthesis of self-referral order dimensions of 1 to 34. So when the 6 space dimensions numbering 34 get synthesized, means when 6 space as dimension gets synthesized upon the format of 7 space as a dimension, then it will be bringing us face to face with the feature minus 126 parallel to the feature 126 of the organization format features of Vishnu Puran. So this table shall be revisited. One shall reach at this table time and again to have a full comprehension of the values, features and format underneath it. From this phase and stage, in the next step, we will be taking up the other aspects of 6 space content. Thank you very much.